Interesting Dads.
There is widespread recognition these days about the prevalence of postnatal depression and anxiety. Research shows that in Australia, it affects 60,000 women and 30,000 men per year.
If we're going to talk about postnatal depression, that's just really the term that we give to an experience of depression that comes after the birth. The main two symptoms that we look out for when we talk about depression are feeling sad or depressed most of the time. And the second one is that we're losing pleasure or interest in activities that we'd usually find pleasurable or interesting. In my experience, anxiety is just as common or perhaps even more common than depression, experiences of depression before and after the birth of the child. So when we talk about anxiety, that can be anything from having persistent or intrusive worries about certain things or a broad range of things. So worrying about the health of your child, or constantly worrying about some aspect of parenting, worrying about the world, or having more physical experience of anxiety. So things that we might call panic symptoms or stress symptoms. Things like fast heart rate, difficulty breathing, episodes where you're feeling dizzy, sweating, shaking. People can have more physical experience of anxiety as well.
I used to think that people who experienced anxiety and depression had some kind of weakness, or they're a bit odd, or all the stigma stuff. And then when it happened to the human who I hold in the highest regard, I don't think I got it immediately, but over time I realised actually normal, whatever normal means, but all people get anxious, all people can get depressed, and all people potentially can get into a diagnosable situation. And it doesn't make them less capable or less competent or less worthwhile. That's in the same way that we don't see someone who breaks their leg as being less adequate. When you break your brain, that's just what happened. And so then you need to go through a process of diagnosis and treatment and management and recovery in the same way as you do with a broken leg.
We know that one of the risk factors for developing a mental health problem is not having access to practical or emotional support. So, the father plays a critical role in providing that support. So, in terms of big picture, we can say that fathers have the potential to really reduce the likelihood or impact of maternal mental health problems, but also for themselves if they're getting the right care and support through that nurturing relationship, through that quality care by the health professionals throughout the birthing process, before and beyond. Fathers play an absolutely critical role in helping and supporting their partner, particularly if they might not be coping and they might be struggling with mental health problems. Just being aware and being aware and being open about the fact that this is a vulnerable time is really important, first of all. Both acknowledging that and both being on the lookout, I suppose, for signs and symptoms and acknowledging if either of you might be at risk. And having that conversation is really important. But if a guy is not going to have that level of awareness or understanding, the woman is most likely to keep her own feelings to herself. She might not disclose how she's feeling. She might not feel like she can confide in her partner or isn't able to get any support from their partner. So this is where being open about it and both, having it on the table that you're both aware of this can be a really important starting point. If the woman might be struggling, talking about it. How are you feeling? Monitoring it, both checking in with each other. What can I do to support? Asking what they can do to support. Rather than again, times we see that this doesn't go so well is when there's this, it's just part of having a baby. It's just part of the hormones. It's just sleep deprivation. If we keep putting it down to all these other factors, the condition itself never gets identified and the person doesn't get treatment until things often deteriorate.
Sometimes trying to broach those topics can make them so much worse. So it is tricky. I think trying to get your partner to the GP, whether that be a mum or a dad for that matter, trying to get them to a GP to get them to address what it is that they're feeling and thinking is probably the most important thing. Because once they get to the GP can in fact give them the referrals that they need to get to a psychologist or whatever it is that they need. And that ensures holistic care as well. So I think even just by saying things like, how you feeling, you're not kind of yourself at the moment, how about you get to the GP and and have a talk to them about, what it is that you're feeling.
The view of our helpline is that if you've got something in you that says this doesn't feel right, reach out for support. And helplines like Panda are really great because there's no cost to it. You can actually just reach out and somebody can say, hey, yeah, you're not doing so well, and you never reconnect. But it'll plant a seed that will grow in terms of your help-seeking behaviour. The other thing that we recommend, and the reason why we created it, is our mental health checklist that's on our website. And that's really important because you can access that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It gives you a readout at the end of it, and there's one for dads who are either expecting a baby or have got a new baby. And they can complete that anytime they want. Nobody has to know if you don't want them to, and it gives you a readout on how you're travelling, and you can either then take that summary and use it to support a conversation with a GP or your parents or your partner, whomever, and it's just a really good tool.
Both being aware and both having that ongoing conversation is really important. Really practical support is so important. So what can the father do to ensure the woman gets enough rest, both during pregnancy, after the birth, and in the postnatal period? And again, just that in itself is about consolidating that we're in this together. This is a partnership.
If you're a father and you're struggling, then I think it's really important that you talk to someone about it. So in most cases, talking to your partner is the first step, or your GP or a good mate, someone that you trust. Most fathers will know another father who's likely gone through similar challenges. So there's, I think, some of the first steps for fathers to talk to.
Whilst it doesn't make it feel any better, it is really normal to be afraid. We know that from all of the dads that have completed over the last 2 years, and we've had 50,000 completions of our mental health checklist alone, we know that of all of the dads that have completed that checklist, 45% of them were afraid of being a father and afraid of being alone with their child. So it's normal to feel really overwhelmed.
When you see someone struggling and you know they need the support, it's a very delicate situation. So you can really only do your best. And we also need to remember that as parents, we all do our best. And it's really important not to try to be that perfect parent, because the perfect parent doesn't exist. There is no such thing as the perfect parent.